If you are a green card holder planning to come to the United States, or have family or friends currently living there, what I am about to tell you could transform your understanding of the US immigration landscape in 2026. At the beginning of 2026, US immigration policy is undergoing a dramatic transformation. This is not alarmist rhetoric or an internet rumor. It's a policy shift already enshrined in the Federal Register and unfolding before our eyes. Within days of the Trump administration's return to the White House, it seemed as if the immigration system had hit fast forward, with a tidal wave of new regulations flooding in, each one potentially altering the fate of millions. But before we delve deeper, I want to ask you something. Were you aware that, as of today, your facial data will be scanned and permanently stored every time you enter or exit US customs? Are you aware that citizens from 75 countries now face almost impossible odds of obtaining a US visa? Are you aware that the naturalization exam has doubled in difficulty, with pass rates potentially hitting historic lows? These aren't impending changes, they're already happening. Let's start with the change that directly impacts everyone. Imagine you've just returned from a trip, pulling your suitcase towards the US Customs desk. The officer gestures for you to look at the camera. In that instant, your facial features are captured by a high-resolution lens, converted into digital data and uploaded to the vast Department of Homeland Security database. This isn't a scene from a sci-fi movie. From the 26th of December 2025, it will be a mandatory procedure. For every non-US citizen entering the United States, US Customs and Border Protection now has unprecedented authority to collect your biometric data at every port of entry. This includes airports, land border crossings, and seaports. If you're not a US citizen, your face will be recorded. Officially, this is to enhance national security and improve border management efficiency. But what does this really mean? It means the government is creating an extensive surveillance network covering all foreigners. Every time you enter or exit the country and every movement you make will be tracked, analyzed, and permanently stored. For green card holders, this policy warrants particular attention. While obtaining a green card used to feel like securing relatively stable status, allowing free entry and exit from the US. Now, every time you pass through customs, the system is building a complete profile of you. Where you went, how long you stayed, and how often you returned. All this information is meticulously recorded. Should the immigration authorities later scrutinize your intent to reside permanently in the US, these records will serve as the most direct evidence. More concerning is the ongoing debate surrounding the system's accuracy and privacy protections. Facial recognition technology has higher error rates for certain ethnic groups. Could this lead to individuals from specific backgrounds being subjected to increased scrutiny at customs? How long will your biometric data be stored for? Might it be shared with other government agencies or law enforcement? These questions currently lack clear answers. However, the expansion of biometrics is merely the tip of the iceberg. The greater impact stems from the drastic expansion of the travel ban. On the 1st of January 2026, the Trump administration signed a new executive order adding 7 countries to the full travel ban list: Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, South Sudan, Syria, Laos, and Sierra Leone. Citizens of these countries now face almost insurmountable odds when applying for any type of US visa, even for urgent medical reasons, to reunite with family members, or as refugees fleeing conflict. This ban erects a formidable barrier, effectively shutting millions of people out of the United States. However, it was the suspension of immigration visas for 75 countries that truly shook immigrant communities. Based on so-called public charge considerations, this policy is rooted in the government's belief that immigrants from these countries might rely on US social welfare systems, becoming a burden on taxpayers. These 75 countries encompass most developing nations, including many in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. For their citizens, the door to legal immigration to the US has virtually closed. What is the logic behind this? The government's stance is clear. They believe that the US immigration system should prioritize individuals who can be economically self-sufficient and who will not rely on government assistance. While this may sound reasonable, the question is whether such a blanket approach is fair. Should a doctor, engineer, or entrepreneur from a listed country automatically be excluded? Should someone with legal relatives in the US be denied the chance of family reunification solely because of their country of birth? A deeper concern is that this policy discriminates on the basis of nationality. It assumes that people from certain countries are more likely to become a public charge, disregarding their individual circumstances, educational background, job skills, or financial status. This contradicts America's long-held values of equality and may violate international human rights conventions. For immigrants already in the United States, these bans create immense uncertainty. If you are from one of these countries, can your family still visit you? Can your spouse or children immigrate to the US through family reunification? The answer is probably no. This will force countless families into prolonged separation, with children unable to see their parents and spouses unable to reunite. A silent humanitarian crisis is unfolding. Yet, even as we grapple with the shock of the travel ban, another, more controversial policy change is emerging. The public charge rule, a concept that has existed in immigration law for over a century, is undergoing a radical reinterpretation. In November 2025, the Trump administration proposed a new version of the public charge rule, which is expected to be finalized in early 2026. This revision grants immigration officials unprecedented discretionary power, allowing them to determine whether an individual might become a public charge based on broader criteria. Historically, the definition of public charge was relatively clear. If you relied primarily on government cash assistance or long-term institutional care, you might be deemed a public charge. However, the new rule broadens this scope. Now, even if you have only briefly received certain benefits, such as food stamps, Medicaid, or housing assistance, this could work against you when applying for a green card or citizenship. Furthermore, immigration officers can predict your future likelihood of using public benefits based on factors such as your age, health status, education level, English proficiency, job skills, and even your family size. What does this mean? It means that immigration screening has become a comprehensive personal assessment. Every detail of your life could be scrutinized. Have you ever been unemployed? Have you ever visited a public hospital? Did your child receive free school meals? Even seemingly insignificant details from your past could now be grounds for rejecting your immigration application. This rule is particularly harsh on low-income families. Many immigrants who are living and working legally in the US, honest taxpayers and hard workers, rely on some government assistance to cover basic needs due to low wages. They now face a painful choice: forgo these essential benefits and risk extreme poverty, or continue receiving aid and accept that they may never obtain a green card or citizenship. This policy also causes more insidious harm: fear, even if you haven't applied to adjust your immigration status yet. And even if the new rules won't theoretically be applied retroactively, fear has already spread throughout immigrant communities. Many are proactively giving up benefits they are eligible for, even when doing so plunges them into hardship. Pregnant women avoid prenatal clinics, seniors hesitate to apply for Medicaid, and children go hungry at school because their parents are afraid to apply for school meal assistance. This chilling effect, this self-censorship, is eroding the basic survival networks of immigrant communities. But if you thought this was the most daunting challenge, changes to the citizenship test might make you reconsider. Imagine you have lived in the United States for 5, 10, or even more years. You have worked honestly, paid your taxes on time, obeyed the law, and learned English. You believe you're finally ready to apply for US citizenship and fulfill your long-held dream. Then you walk into the testing center, sit before the immigration officer, and the exam begins. The old citizenship test required you to answer 10 civics questions correctly to pass. The questions were relatively simple, such as what is the capital of the United States? Or how many amendments are in the Constitution? The pass rate consistently remained above 90%, with most applicants who studied hard passing without issue. However, starting in 2026, the rules change entirely. The new citizenship test will increase the number of questions to 20, and you will need to answer 12 correctly to pass. This isn't just a quantitative increase. More importantly, the difficulty and complexity of the questions has increased significantly. The new exam includes more questions that require a deep understanding of American history, political systems, and civic responsibilities. It no longer merely tests whether you have memorized basic facts, but rather demands that you truly understand the meaning behind this knowledge. For many immigrants, this presents an almost insurmountable barrier. Consider those who work long hours in restaurants, factories, and on farms. People who labor for over 10 hours a day, then return home to care for children and manage household chores. Their English may be limited and their reading skills basic, not to mention their ability to grasp complex political concepts. The old exam was challenging enough. The new one is an insurmountable obstacle. This shift sends a clear message. America is no longer welcoming to all who wish to become citizens, but only to well-educated elites with the time and resources to prepare for the test. Essentially, it is a class-based screening process that excludes the most vulnerable groups. who need the protection of citizenship the most. Ironically, many native-born Americans might fail this new test themselves. If you asked a random US citizen detailed questions about federalism, the separation of powers or the amendment process, they probably wouldn't know the answers. Yet they were born citizens, while immigrants must pass a rigorous test to prove they deserve the same status. What logic lies behind this double standard? However, the increased difficulty of the exam is only part of the problem. The greater challenge lies in ensuring the exam is accessible and fair. Will the new exam provide sufficient preparation resources? Will it account for differences in cultural backgrounds and educational levels? Are there reasonable exemption mechanisms for those who struggle to prepare due to disability or age? Clear answers to these questions are currently lacking. And just as immigrant communities struggle to adapt to these changes, another shock quietly arrives. Fees, while immigrating to the United States has never been inexpensive. Starting from the 1st of January 2026, the process will become significantly more costly. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services (USCIS) has increased the fees for dozens of services. While the increase in the asylum application fee from $100 to $100 may seem minor, for a refugee fleeing war with no money, those $2 could mean a meal or a night's lodging. Fees for work permits, adjustment of status, and family-based immigration are all rising too. A family may cumulatively need to pay thousands, or even tens of thousands, of dollars in government fees to complete the entire immigration process, not including legal fees, translation costs, medical examinations, and other related expenses. This is already a heavy burden for middle-class families, and nearly impossible for low-income families to bear. The fee hikes are not merely an economic issue, they are fundamentally about justice. When the immigration system becomes a luxury that only the wealthy can afford, it ceases to serve as a gateway of opportunity. America has long prided itself on welcoming the tired, the poor, the huddled masses yearning to breathe free, yet this phrase inscribed on the Statue of Liberty now seems like bitter irony. Meanwhile, processing times continue to lengthen alongside rising fees. The immigration agency's backlog has reached record levels, with many applications taking years to be resolved. Imagine paying exorbitant fees, submitting your application, and then facing an endless wait. During this time, you cannot change jobs, travel freely, or make long-term plans. Your life is put on hold, suspended in limbo with no certainty as to when things will settle down. The mental strain that this uncertainty places on individuals and families is immeasurable. But even if you successfully overcome all these hurdles, another unexpected challenge awaits. Social media, your Facebook posts, Twitter comments, and Instagram photos. Every digital footprint you've left online may now become part of the immigration vetting process. From 2026 onwards, all applicants for the US Visa Waiver Program's electronic system for travel authorization (ESTA) will be required to provide their social media history from the past 5 years. This includes all platforms used, account names, and activity on these platforms. Initially, this requirement applied only to Visa Waiver Program travelers, but it has quickly expanded to cover other visa categories. Now, an increasing number of immigration applications demand social media information. Immigration officers will scrutinize your posts, looking for any indication that you might be unsuitable for entry into the United States. Have you criticized the US government? Have you shared views that are considered radical or extreme? What kind of people are in your social circle? Any of these things could result in your application being denied. This level of scrutiny raises serious concerns about privacy and freedom of speech. Social media was intended as a space for self-expression, connecting with friends and engaging in public discourse. But can you still speak freely when you know the government might be monitoring your every word? Would you start self-censoring, avoiding sensitive topics, or even deleting past posts? This atmosphere of surveillance affects not only immigrants, but also everyone connected to them. For example, if your friend is an immigration applicant, could your interactions on social media affect their case? Even more concerning is the highly subjective nature of social media screening criteria. What constitutes problematic content? Who decides whether a post is a harmless joke or a dangerous signal? Without clear guidelines, immigration officers have enormous interpretive power, which can easily lead to arbitrary and discriminatory decisions. An individual could be denied entry based on a post from years ago that was reasonable at the time, without ever understanding why it was deemed inappropriate. Moreover, this surveillance is based on the flawed assumption that social media accurately reflects a person's true thoughts and behavior. Yet we all know that the image people present online is often curated and polished. Some people may be highly active online and express diverse views, yet remain law-abiding citizens in real life, while others may be very low-key online yet harbor dangerous tendencies in private. Trying to assess a person's character and intent through social media is like peering through a keyhole into a room. You see only an extremely limited and distorted picture, yet amidst all these policy shifts, one group bears the heaviest brunt. Refugees and asylum seekers. For those fleeing war, persecution and violence, the United States of 2026 has all but shut its doors. Travel bans, increased asylum fees, and social media vetting all make their situation more difficult. Even worse, the Trump administration is pushing a series of measures to restrict asylum eligibility, including requiring asylum seekers to apply in a third country first, and expanding the scope of expedited deportation. Imagine you are a mother from a war-torn country who has journeyed across mountains and rivers with your child to reach the US border. You have no money, no documents, only desperate hope of finding safety in America. But upon arrival, you are told that you must first return to the dangerous region you fled, or seek asylum in another third country which may be equally unsafe. Your child is hungry, sick and terrified. What would you do? This isn't a hypothetical scenario. It's a real story unfolding daily at the southern border of the US. Thousands of families are denied entry and forced to live in makeshift camps in border towns in appalling conditions. Children sleep on the ground, lacking sufficient food, water and medical care. Parents wait in despair, unsure where to turn. The United States used to be the world's largest nation for resettling refugees, a tradition that this country took pride in. But now, that tradition is being eroded. The 2026 refugee resettlement quota could fall to an all-time low, far below the level required to meet global humanitarian needs. The United Nations estimates that over 100 million people worldwide have been displaced by conflict and persecution. Yet the number of refugees accepted by the United States is falling sharply. This is not just a policy choice, but a moral decision. When the rest of the world is in crisis, the United States is choosing to turn away. Yet, amid this seemingly bleak landscape, some persist, resist, and seek glimmers of hope. Immigrant rights organizations across the nation are mobilizing to challenge the legality of these new policies. Attorneys general in multiple states have filed lawsuits against the travel ban and public charge rule, arguing that these policies violate the Constitution and immigration law. Legal experts have noted that many of the new regulations lack proper administrative procedures and adequate public consultation and impact assessments, and they may therefore be overturned in court. Meanwhile, remarkable resilience is emerging within immigrant communities themselves. Mutual aid networks are springing up in cities to offer legal advice, help with preparing for citizenship exams, and emotional support. Churches, community centers, and non-profits are working to help immigrants navigate these changes. People are sharing information, encouraging one another, and reminding each other not to give up. Politically, while federal immigration policies are tightening, many state and local governments are taking the opposite stance. States such as California, New York, and Illinois are strengthening protections for immigrants by refusing to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement agencies and providing increased public services and legal aid. This federal versus local dynamic creates a complex reality, whereby your rights and safety may be determined more by where you live than by your immigration status. This is the true face of US immigration policy in 2026. There is no single narrative, but rather an interweaving of countless individual stories. Behind every policy are real people, real families, real dreams, and real fears. So, what should you do if you are navigating this system? First, make sure your information is accurate. In this era of rumors and panic, it is crucial to obtain information from reliable sources. You should trust the official website of US Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, announcements from the Department of Homeland Security, and reputable legal aid organizations. Do not believe unverified messages on social media, and do not be intimidated by posts that claim ICE is conducting mass raids or all green cards will be revoked. Secondly, if you have a green card, you should seriously consider applying for citizenship. Although the new citizenship exam is more challenging, citizenship remains the most secure immigration status. Once you become a citizen, you will no longer be affected by policy changes. You won't need to worry about your green card being revoked, facing travel restrictions, or being subject to public charge rules. Yes, the exam is difficult, but it's not impossible. There are many free preparation resources available, and lots of volunteers willing to help you study. If you qualify, start preparing now, don't delay. Thirdly, keep good records. Make sure that all of your documents are up to date. including your green card, passport, and work permit. Also keep any documents that prove your lawful residence in the US, such as tax returns, pay slips, lease agreements, and utility bills. If you need to travel abroad for an extended period, consider applying for a re-entry permit. Update your address with USCIS to ensure you receive all notifications promptly. Fourthly, seek professional help if you encounter any problems. Immigration law is extremely complex, and even a small mistake can have serious consequences. Do not attempt to handle it yourself if you receive a notice from USCIS, are denied entry, or face any legal proceedings. Find a licensed immigration attorney or accredited immigration representative instead. Many community organizations offer free or low-cost legal services, so seek out these resources. Fifth, engage with your community. Immigration issues affect us all, not just individuals. Attend community meetings, support organizations that campaign for immigrant rights, and make your voice heard. If you are eligible to vote, use your ballot to support candidates who stand with immigrants. Policies are made by people, and people can change. Only by uniting can we drive real change. Finally, do not lose hope. Yes, the current situation is grim and the future is uncertain. However, history shows us that waves of xenophobia and restrictionism always recede. America is a nation of immigrants. It's in our DNA. It's our strength. While immigration policies may tighten in the short term, in the long run, America needs immigrants. Our economy needs immigrants. Our society needs immigrants. Our population is aging, birth rates are falling, and many industries are experiencing labor shortages. Without immigrants, America cannot sustain its prosperity and innovation. Moreover, the immigrant narrative lies at the core of the American narrative. From the founding fathers to tech titans and cultural icons to everyday workers, immigrants have shaped this nation. They bring new ideas, skills, and energy. They work in restaurants, save lives in hospitals, farm the land, conduct research in laboratories, and teach in classrooms. They start businesses, create jobs, pay taxes, and serve their communities. They are America. So, as you face these policy changes, remember that you are not an outsider. You are not a burden. You are not the problem. You are part of this country. Your contributions deserve to be recognized. Your rights deserve to be protected. Your dreams deserve to be realized. The immigration policies of 2026 may be harsh, but they won't last forever. The wheel of history keeps turning, and the pendulum of politics swings back and forth. During these difficult times, we must protect ourselves and our families, maintain resilience, hold on to hope, and keep moving forward. Because America's story is still being written, and you are one of its authors. Don't let fear take your pen from you, and don't let setbacks stop you. Keep writing, keep fighting, keep believing. One day, when we look back on this period in history, we will be proud that we chose to persevere. Even in the darkest of moments, this is the reality of US immigration policy in 2026. There is no exaggeration or panic here. Just facts and hope coexisting. If you have found this information helpful and believe it deserves to be shared more widely, please pass it on to your friends. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments section. See you next time.